Something strange happened in Tampa, Florida, and people are still trying to explain it. This wasn't just a concert. It wasn't even just a sold-out stadium. For 2 nights straight, an entire city seemed to fall under the same
spell.
Thousands of people, different ages, different backgrounds, different languages moving like one, singing in Korean, crying, screaming, holding on to moments like they didn't want them to end. And at the center of it all, BTS.
But
here's the part that no one expected. Night 2 didn't just continue the energy, it completely changed the atmosphere. And what happened that night left even longtime fans questioning what they had just experienced before the lights, before the music, before BTS even stepped on stage. Tampa was already different. If you walked through the city that weekend, you could feel it immediately. It wasn't subtle. Everywhere you looked, purple lights, BTS merchandise groups of fans gathering on sidewalks and cafes, outside hotels, strangers talking like old friends, laughing, sharing stories, trading small gifts, like it was some kind of unspoken tradition. And maybe the strangest part, no one found it weird. It just felt normal, like everyone had silently agreed to be part of something bigger. Local businesses didn't just notice it, they depended on it. Hotels filled to capacity, restaurants running out of supplies, ride services overwhelmed with non-stop requests. Some reports claimed the city hadn't seen anything like this in years, but even that didn't fully capture it, because what was happening wasn't just economic, it was emotional. And that's where things started to get interesting. Inside the stadium, hours before the show began, the energy was already building, not chaotic, not random, coordinated. Entire sections of the crowd were practicing chants together. Perfect timing, perfect rhythm, fans helping each other learn lyrics. Even if they didn't speak the language, there was no leader, no instructions, and yet somehow it worked, like everyone was tuned into the same frequency. Some fans later said it felt rehearsed. Others said it felt instinctive. But almost everyone agreed on one thing. It didn't feel like a normal crowd, and that was before night 2 even started. When the second night arrived, something shifted. The same stadium, the same stage, but the atmosphere heavier, louder, more intense. It was like the entire crowd came back with unfinished energy from the first
night,
and they were ready to release all of it. People weren't just excited anymore. They were anticipating something bigger. And then the lights went out for a split second. Silence. The kind of silence that feels unnatural. In a place that loud, thousands of people, completely still, waiting. Then the sound hit, deep, heavy, sudden. The stage lit up in red and dancers flooded in like shadows moving in sync. And then BTS appeared. Not walking, not easing into it, they rushed the stage with force, like they were matching the energy of the crowd head
on.
And just like that, everything exploded.
The
screams weren't just loud. They were overwhelming. The kind of sound that makes your chest vibrate. And for the next part of the show, it only kept building. But no one knew the real moment hadn't happened yet. It came later near the end when most people thought they had already seen the
peak.
That's when it happened. No announcement, no warning, just a few familiar notes. And then, the entire stadium reacted at once. Instantly, loud, sharp, emotional. It was Pied Piper. And if you weren't there, it's hard to explain what that meant, because this wasn't just a popular song. It was something deeper inside the fandom. Pied Piper had built a reputation, almost like a legend. The message of the song is clear. BTS telling fans not to get too lost in them, to focus on real life responsibilities, the world outside, but the way they perform it, that's where everything flips. The choreography, the expressions, the tone, it pulls you in almost intentionally. And fans know this. They joke about it. They talk about it. But experiencing it live without warning, that's different. That's overwhelming. People screamed. Some laughed in disbelief. Others just stood. They're completely frozen because it didn't feel real. And for a moment, it wasn't just a concert anymore. It felt like something else entirely. But that moment, it didn't stay on stage because BTS moved outward closer. They stepped onto extended platforms, walking along the edges of the stadium, getting within feet of fans, making eye contact, smiling, reacting, and that's where things shifted again. Because those small interactions, they hit harder than the performance itself. Fans weren't just watching anymore. They were part of it. And in those moments, the scale of the stadium disappeared. It felt personal. And that's when people started noticing something unusual. The crowd wasn't just young. It wasn't just one type of fan. It was everyone. Teenagers screaming next to adults, parents singing with their kids, and even elderly fans, fully engaged, fully present. One older woman stood near the front of section, clapping along, singing every word, completely immersed, not watching from a distance, not observing, participating, and people around are noticed. Because that's not something you expect at a concert like this. Not at this level, not with this kind of energy. And yet there was real, unfiltered happening in front of thousands. Some fans later compared it to historic performances, moments that defined generations, names like the Beatles, Michael Jackson. But even then, many said, this felt different because those moments were powerful. But this felt connected. Like the barrier between artist and audience wasn't just lowered, it was gone. And that realization didn't hit everyone at once. It spread slowly from person to person until it became impossible to ignore. Something unusual had happened, and it didn't end when the music stopped. Outside the stadium, the energy didn't fade. It carried into the city. Fans gathering again, talking about what they had just experienced, trying to describe it, but struggling because the words didn't quite match the feeling. Media outlets started picking it up quickly, clips spreading online, reactions going viral. People who weren't there started watching, trying to understand, and many of them had the same reaction. What is this? Because it didn't look like a typical concert. It looked like something closer to a shared experience, almost like stepping into a different world. And interestingly, that's exactly how fans described it. It's like another universe. That phrase came up again and again, not as exaggeration, but as the closest explanation people could find. A place where language didn't matter, where strangers felt familiar, where music wasn't just heard, it was felt. And when you look at the bigger picture, it starts to make sense because BTS didn't just build a fan base, they built a culture. Inside that culture, things work differently. Fans don't just attend concerts. They prepare for them days in advance, creating gifts to give away for free. Handmade items, art, personal messages. No expectation of anything in return, just sharing. First-time concertgoers often don't expect it, and when it happens, it surprises them. Some even say it changes how they see the experience entirely, because it's not just about watching. It's about participating, contributing, becoming part of it. And then there's a chance. One moment in particular stands out when the crowd begins calling out each member's name, one by one, loud, clear, unified, thousands of voices moving in sync. And when it peaks, it sends chills through the entire stadium, not because it's loud, but because it's precise, intentional, connected. And this is where things get more complicated, because outside observers have started asking questions, not negative ones, but curious ones, questions about scale, about intensity, about what this really is. Some say it's just fandom at its highest level. Others aren't so sure. There's been growing discussion online, people wondering if this goes beyond that, if what BTS has built is something closer to a movement. Now, to be clear, these are just observations. speculation, but they're coming from a real place. Because when you see thousands of people from different parts of the world, all connected by the same thing, reacting the same way, feeling the same energy, it raises questions, and not easy ones. So, what actually happened in Tampa? Was it just a successful concert, a well-executed performance, or was it something more? Because if you strip everything back, the lights, the stage, the music, what remains is connection. Real, visible, undeniable connection between artists and audience, between strangers, between cultures. And that's not something you can fake. It either exists or it doesn't. BTS didn't just perform in Tampa. They changed it. For a weekend, the city became something else, something louder, something more emotional, something people are still talking about. And maybe that's the real story here.
Not
The songs, not the choreography, not even the scale, but the impact. Because moments like that don't just disappear. They stay with people. They shape how they see things, how they connect, how they remember. And now the bigger question starts to form. If this is what happens in one city during one weekend, what happens next? Because this isn't slowing down. If anything, it's growing quietly globally. And whether you're part of it or just watching from the outside, one thing is clear. This is no longer just music. And whatever is becoming, we're only seeing the